Welcome to Mastering the Numbers, your go-to podcast for a deep dive into the world of business and entrepreneurship. I'm your host, Joe Mallo. Join me as I sit down with successful business owners to uncover their journeys, learnings, successes, and future plans. From market trends to personal stories of triumph, Mastering the Numbers delivers invaluable insights to fuel your own entrepreneurial spirit. So grab a seat and get ready to be inspired.
All right, welcome everyone to Mastering the Numbers. I am Joe Mallo with the Lead Edge Consulting Group. We are powered by Focal Point Business and Executive Coaching. My guest today is David Koch. He is owner and senior living advisor with Assisted Living Locators here in Cleveland. Welcome to the show.
Thank you, Joe. Appreciate you having me.
Absolutely. Thanks for being here. Tell us a little bit about Assisted Living Locators.
Sure. Assisted Living Locators is a franchise. It's about 20 years old at this point. It was started by a nurse out in Arizona who saw people being discharged from the hospital and they were unsure of what to do next. If they couldn't go home, how were they going to find that senior living option? So she started a business, and a few years later, she franchised it. And I bought the franchise a few years ago for the east side of Cleveland. And we are a free service to families. We don't cost them anything, but we work with them to find the right senior living option for their needs. Sometimes that's assisted living. Sometimes it's just independent living. A lot of times I work with families just to get them the in-home care they need to hold them over until the time is right for a move. So there's a lot that we do with the family. It's not just a quick placement agency. Oftentimes we work with residents, clients of ours for months, maybe even years at a time before it's the appropriate move. But there's a lot of lead up to that move, and we can assist families with that.
Right. So when you say free, does that mean that the facilities that their families may be residing in, they're paying you instead of the families?
Yeah, the closest analogy would be like a headhunter. So a headhunter brings a well-vetted employee to a company and they are paid a finder's fee by the company. We don't charge the family for helping them find the right place. We are paid by the assisted living community or memory care, independent living community. And as a result, I work with all of them in the area. I'm not tied to any two or three or any particular chain. I really work with all of the communities in the area because different families are going to have different needs, and what works well for the Smith family may not work well for the Jones family. So you really build relationships with all of the assisted living associated communities in the area. And yes, they are those that pay my salary when I bring them a well-vetted resident.
That's great. So you're out there trying to find truly the best place for that individual, no matter what.
There's a lot of options out there, Joe, and it's tough to figure out which one's the best fit for a family. So yes, that's what I do, is I try to take all those options that they could select from down to just a few good options. And then we work together to tour those properties and then weed it down to the one or two that they're most interested in, and then figure out how do we make this happen.
Right. I think that's such a needed service. We talked about this a little bit
Yeah.
in a couple conversations we've had. I've been through that with my family a couple times, and we didn't have those services. I certainly could have used you for sure. But
And that was a big part of why I got into it as well. We went through this very thing with my father 10 years ago, and my sisters and I didn't know there were companies like Assisted Living Locators that could help us. So when I learned about a company like this, I thought, yeah, this is what I want to do.
yeah. Well, people always say you have to love what you do, and so you found something that kind of fit you. So good for you. So let's dig a little bit deeper here. What have been some of the biggest challenges or struggles that you've gone through since starting this business?
Probably the biggest one is I was an outsider. I didn't come from the industry. I didn't work at assisted living communities or in the healthcare field at all, really. I had a job at one point working with a medical transcription company, but that was years ago. Most of my career, I had been in corporate IT. I was more the liaison between technology and the end user. So when I decided to take that same kind of liaison to a different field like senior living, the first thing I had to do was become educated about the options that are out there, and then meet the people who work in that industry, and basically do a lot of networking. I've met a bunch of wonderful people over the last couple of years because I didn't work with them beforehand. So I've done a lot of networking, attended many events, toured all kinds of properties, and it's been a wonderful education experience. I mean, that was part of one of the reasons I made the changes. I was looking to learn something new, and this new career has given me that opportunity, and I really enjoy it. I genuinely do.
Great. Have you had any failures along the way that you've had to overcome?
I would temper the word failure by more missteps instead of failures. That I wouldn't say there've been any significant setbacks. What I would say is through pure ignorance, learning as you go, I've made a few missteps, and some of that was just not fully understanding this process or that process. There have been a couple misguided marketing attempts that I've learned from, but I expected that. I wasn't naive enough to think that I would step into this role and everything would just go according to plan. The learning process is a series of 2 steps forward, 1 step back. You're going to try things. A lot of times it works. Sometimes it doesn't. But for the most part, things have gone very well. Assisted Living Locators as a company provides us all kinds of support. They don't just sell you the franchise and then disappear. They provide support groups, weekly webinars, business coaches. So there's a whole lot of resources around me to help make this a success, which again was part of the reason I was attracted to the idea of buying a franchise instead of starting this type of business up from the ground up by myself. I've got a wonderful network of colleagues around the country that I can turn to with years of experience. And as a result, it's kept those setbacks to a minimum.
So would you say good business owners are going to have missteps along the way, but those same good business owners are going to find a way to put their heads down and make it through?
I definitely would. I think if you don't make some mistakes, you're not trying anything. If you play it too safe all the time, you're not going to get anywhere. I mean, at that point, just stay in bed in the morning. Don't even try, right?
There you go. I hear that a lot. So thanks for sharing that. So let's take it one step in a different direction. What are some common misconceptions that you hear about running a business?
That it's going to take off right at day one, that it's going to happen faster than you think. It's an uphill battle. Let's be honest. It takes time and it takes persistence. I'm sure there are those incredible stories of someone who just decided to start and things went off gangbusters. The more realistic story is it's a slug. I mean, you're getting up every day and you're going through the motions and you do what you have to do. And sometimes it's baby steps, and you have to celebrate the little victories because it doesn't all happen at once. But if you stick with it, the perseverance is so important. Just keep at it, believe in it, believe in yourself, and it's amazing what that can get you.
Yeah, I hear that a lot. Some people think they're just going to wake up and the business is going to take off no matter what. You have to put the work in. A ton of work,
It is
right?
work. That's why they call it work, Joe, because it doesn't come
right.
super simple.
That's right. So on that note, something that I talk about in every single one of my podcasts is work-life balance. I've always struggled. Everybody that knows me knows I've always struggled with work-life balance, although I'm working on it, right?
Yeah.
And how do you maintain a work-life balance, or is that something that you struggle with as well?
I wouldn't say struggle with. I won't lie to you. I'm a slave to my calendar. So my calendar dictates my life, and I try and block out times, weekends and evenings, for certain non-work related events. Let's put it to that. Still, being a small business owner and a single business owner, there are times where you have to go outside the normal 9 to 5, Monday through Friday. And I expected that, and I enjoy that, quite honestly. But you do have to set aside time for yourself. And some of that comes from just blocking that time off on your calendar. That's how it works for me. Some people probably have other methods, but I've found that if I put something on my calendar, like our meeting here today, it happens. If I block off time to do something with the family, it happens. And that doesn't mean I'm that controlling that if it's not on the calendar, it doesn't occur. I do have some spontaneity in my life, but it's one way that I help control the work-life balance or the work-personal life balance.
Well, you found something that works for you.
Yeah.
I guess that's what everybody needs to learn. Find a
Yeah,
way that works for you.
and you have to put up some boundaries. There are times where you just have to let the phone go to voicemail or something because you can't always be working. You're going to burn out. There's just too many stories, right? So you have to have that healthy balance.
Yeah, for sure. Um, Everybody needs to have a healthy balance. So on top of that, how do you maintain your motivation and your focus with how busy you are and everything that you have going on? How do you maintain that motivation and focus?
Well, in a lot of ways, it's the nature of the business. This is a very personal type of work, right? You're working with people going through one of the more stressful events in their life. And they're looking to someone like me to help them get through that and do it with less stress, hopefully for less money and in less time. So I've got people relying on me. You know, the motivation comes from outside. They're reaching out and saying, David, you need to help us do this. And so in many ways, it propels me along knowing that if I don't do certain things, there's going to be someone very unhappy or in a bad situation. And I don't want that to happen. In addition to that, there's also just the fact that aside from the comments a couple moments ago about the work, this is fun. I mean, there's a reason I decided to do this. This is rewarding and entertaining and educational and challenging. It's a great way to spend my day every day. So the motivation isn't that hard. Of course, there are times where I have to talk myself up to go out and do something I may not want to do, but you just do it and you get past it. And you usually find that it was a better thing than you were concerned about. But it is a challenge, Joe. I understand to stay motivated, but maybe it's the newness of all this that's talking. But I genuinely enjoy what I do, and I'm gonna keep doing it because it's fun.
With yeah, well, I think if something's fun and you enjoy it, and it's something you really appreciate helping others, then it's gonna always going to be motivating.
Yeah, I could imagine a lot of other careers that I probably couldn't say all those things about, and therefore the motivation might be harder to come by. But
Yeah,
this
me
one,
too.
it's not too hard to stay motivated. But yes, there are still moments where you just have to push yourself, and that goes back to the previous comments about perseverance and just keep at it, don't give up.
Yeah, for sure. So, we hear about the medical world and the world that you're in. There's a lot of change going on and a lot of innovation going on continuously. How do you stay open to change and stay at the top of the pack with everything that's going on in that industry?
Well, a lot of that is the networking within the industry that I do on a regular basis. I stay in touch with the people who work in these communities. I work with the people who support these communities and support the seniors. I stay in touch with what's going on in their world and what they're hearing. And it is, as you said, an interesting time to be in this industry because there are significant challenges in front of these types of assisted living or independent living communities. Staffing is a big one, right? So there are some very interesting ideas out there about using technology to supplement the lack of staffing. Some of it will probably not pan out, but I like the fact that it's bringing out the creativity in some people to find ways to help the situation. I mean, there's no disguising the fact there are more baby boomers than there are people to help support them. How are we going to deal with this demographic moving through the pipeline? And again, it's neat to see some of the ideas. Maybe it's my background from IT that I'm genuinely curious about those types of developments. I've always sort of been on that front end of the change curve. Even in my corporate IT career, I spent a lot of time doing lean manufacturing and continuous improvement. So in many ways, I was that proponent of change. In this industry, doing what I'm doing, that's not a bad tool to have in my tool belt. You know what I mean?
Right. Right. Absolutely. Well, the change is constant, so it's better to be in front of it.
Yeah.
For sure. So with your company, can you offer us a little glimpse into the future? Where do you see things going for assisted living locators?
Well, I just mentioned it, that there are a lot of people in a certain demographic who are going to need this type of service. Um, it's become very apparent of late that I'm going to need to begin to expand and bring some people on, because I'm only one person. I can only be in so many places at one time, obviously. And there are more and more people, as they learn that this service exists, that are going to want it. Because again, if you have a free service available to you to help you get through a once or twice in your lifetime event, why wouldn't you take advantage of it? And people are, as they begin to learn that this is something they can partake of, they are eager to do it. You know, there's no hidden agenda here. I'm not trying to be cute. There's just a simple fact. People need this guidance, and the assisted living companies are happy to work with people like me, companies like mine, because they want their community to be full. Let's just call it what it is. And so they're working with us to help bring those well-vetted residents to them. So I'm going to have to grow. And I know companies similar to mine are growing as well. It's an interesting industry. It's not very old. I mean, compared to, say, the real estate industry, we're still in our infancy. And there's a lot of changes going on even within our industry because it is so new. And I enjoy that. This was part of why I got into IT back before the internet and when things were very different than what you see today. It was the Wild West. There was a lot of stuff going on. And now IT has matured a lot and the situation's much different. 40 years down the road, maybe this senior living advisor will be a much different, more mature industry. But right now, there's a lot of change going on. And some of that means I have to change and bring on some other people.
Yeah. Well, with that being said, with the growth of your company being needed, what are some of the biggest challenges that you see out there? Is it just finding the right people, or are there other things out there?
Yeah, finding the right people is probably the most difficult. And part of it is this is a very personal, hands-on approach. You know, this isn't a phone bank or a bot or an online service. This is concierge type work. You're getting into people's homes. You are becoming an ally to the family. So it takes a particular kind of person with a certain personality and a level of empathy. And so you want to make sure you find the right person, not to be cold, but you don't just want an employee, you want a very, very certain type of employee. And maybe with a particular background to make that ramping up period as short as possible.
Yeah, absolutely. I hear that from a lot of business owners out there. It's probably one of the biggest challenges they see is the same as you, finding the right people.
Yeah, yeah.
Okay, final question, I promise.
Okay.
So what type of advice would you give an individual who's either thinking about starting their own business or even someone who's maybe 1 or 2 years in that might be struggling a little bit? What type of advice would you give either one of them?
Well, if someone was at the beginning of the process or considering getting into the process, I would recommend educating yourself. Before I decided to make this change, I read a lot of books on small business, entrepreneurship, the healthcare system, assisted living. Again, not coming from the industry, I wanted to arm myself with as much information before I hit the ground running. And I also wanted to know more about running your own business and being a small business owner. I had always worked in the corporate setting, so that wasn't something I had done before. And again, I'm always interested in learning more, so it was a wonderful opportunity to learn about a new subject. In addition to that, there's also, as I said a little bit ago, you have to be realistic with your expectations. You may want to do this, but are you really up for the challenge? Are you really going to put in the time and do the legwork and hit the system every day and stay on it? It's not something you can do for 3 weeks and then go, well, I tried, that was enough. It's going to be a commitment. And the same could be said for that person who might be a few years in and things are starting to slow down and they're getting worn out. Ask yourself, why did you get into this? What drove you to make this decision, and what brought you into this new business of yours? I'll just give an analogy. I have a colleague who was kind of getting to that phase of maybe being a little burnt out. And what turned it around for her was bringing on an employee, and suddenly things started to get really successful very fast. And now she can't imagine doing anything else. All it took was that change to her current situation, and that change was finding the right employee. And together they're doing a wonderful amount of business. Doesn't mean that the solution to everybody's slump is go hire somebody, but I think the underlying message is, if you're in that slump, then try a change. Do something to shake it up a bit and get yourself excited about the day-to-day again.
Yeah, that's great advice. Listen, David, I really appreciate you being a part of our interview series here at Mastering the Numbers. If somebody wants to get a hold of you, how can they get a hold of you?
Thank you, and I appreciate you inviting me today. Probably the easiest ways are either go to the website, assistedlivinglocators.com, or you can give me a call at the office, 330-348-0957.
Perfect. Listen, everyone out there, David's service at Assisted Living Locators is such a valuable service. Reach out to him. And once again, everybody, thank you for being a part of my interview series, Mastering the Numbers. We'll catch you on our next episode. David, once again, thank you very much for being here. We'll see you on the next episode. Take care.
Thank you, Joe.
You've just experienced another insightful episode of Mastering the Numbers. We hope you enjoyed the journey and gained valuable insights to fuel your financial success. Don't forget to subscribe to Mastering the Numbers on your favorite podcast platform to never miss an episode. And be sure to leave us a review to let us know how we're doing. Until next time, keep pushing forward and let your entrepreneurial spirit soar. Thank you for listening.